Hey everybody, today we're going to play with little bits of lace and different kinds of lace and interesting fabrics. And here's the tester one I made. I want to make some Shabby Roses for my bits and bobs. This was my tester piece and I'll show you how I made it. Isn't it adorable? It's adorable. It's got all kinds of different kinds of laces that I used and a button in the middle. So I'll show you how to do that, how I did that. And I think I'd like to experiment. This is a string that came off of a blouse. Just one of those kind of strings that are on clothes sometimes that I saved. And I think I'd like to see what I can make out of this too. So that's what I planned for today. Okay, to start, I started with a thin piece of cotton, and it can be felt, and I made a sort of base piece for myself just to have, I'll show you, just to have something solid to stitch through when I was stitching it all together. And I decided to fold it over. No good reason, just because I felt like it. Okay. And I also started with, on the blue one, with a ruffled piece of lace, the kind that comes ruffled. And what I did with it, I put a knot in one end of my thread, and I gathered. So I just did a stitch the way, a running stitch at the top. We use a running stitch a lot, don't we, for things like the yo-yo, especially when you're going to gather something, which is what I'm going to do here. This thread is acting like I threaded it from the wrong side, and actually, now that I think of it, I probably did. From the wrong end, I should say. Yeah, it's knotting up and everything. Oh well. I'm almost there now. Then I take both ends, the knot, I only put the knot in so it doesn't pull through, and I just make sure I'm holding on to it, and I gather up the thread. Ooh. Pulled through anyways. How do you like that? Oh well, I'll work with it from there. Okay. And when it's all gathered up, I cross it over. Actually, since it went, I think I'm going to clip some of this off because it's not necessary then. And you make it into a circle. Pin it together so that I don't have it coming loose again. I think I'm going to continue gathering here because what happened is, no, I'm going to start over. Okay, I got the thread all the way through again so that the whole thing can gather instead of leaving me. What happened is the knot came through about an inch, and so there was an inch of the lace that wasn't gathering, which is why I started over. Okay. Well, let's do this. The threads should be on the same side for gathering purposes. There. Okay, now I'm going to repin these two together, the two ends. And we hope this works this time. Fiddliness some of this is. Okay. Now with that, I'm going to pull both sides until there. That's more like it. I get a nice tight circle in the middle. Now if I can, I'm going to do a tie so that that stays that way. Okay. Now, that's going to be my base. So to get it started, let me re-thread my needle. And I'm just going to, just to keep things together, I'm going to take a few stitches down the side here where the two ends are meeting, just to hold them loosely. None of this is fine sewing, it's just kind of tack sewing, just to hold things. Use a thread that's going to get lost in the layers so that it's not very noticeable. So for these kind of, when I overlap two ends, what I like to do is stitch down the one side, then flip over and stitch back on the other side, just to make sure I'm catching everything. I think that's going to be my up and that'll be my back, which is exactly how I would have wanted it, but I don't think it would have happened if I had planned it that way. I wasn't sure how this lace was gonna, like on the blue one, the lace gave me an obvious direction, but with this one I wasn't sure. Okay, now also I'm going to take this and weave it. Get another needle here. weave it in and out a bit and then trim it just so that that end isn't showing. I'm going to push it to the back first. And then just, like I said, just weaving it in and out a bit. There. Okay. So I took my base part and I put it over the center of that gathered lace. And I basically stitched my gathered lace to the base in different spots. Two parts to this. One, you want to hold the lace to the base. That rhymes too much. But also you want to do some stitching across the center of the gather just to hold that together. So I'll show you what I mean. So I'm just gonna make sure I get some of these gathers of the lace and just stitch them right where they are to keep them gathered in case it's not going to happen, but in case the thread that I gathered it with snaps for some reason. These are fun to make. When I finished the blue one, I was like, oh, it was evening, and I can't videotape in the evening because I don't have proper lighting. So I have to wait for sunshine in an afternoon. It's the only time I really can successfully videotape at the moment. Anyways, I had to wait. So I was like all anxious going, I want to make another one now. But I waited. Okay. So I basically have attached that to the base and just with a bunch of rough stitches. Okay. Then, now I'm going to prepare the layers for the top. And the reason I like to do this first is I like to make sure the size I'm going for. So what I'm going to do now is from these pieces, I'm going to cut a whole bunch of different circles. And from the different laces, and I don't want them to be bigger than this. So originally I cut myself some cardboard templates as guides, but obviously in this one I would want one even bigger than this one. But it's all just rough cuts, so there's nothing delicate about any of this as far as making it look. It's shabby. It's supposed to look rough and cute. It's cute. Okay. So I'll show you what I'm talking about as far as cutting. So here I have some interesting fabrics. This is a very see-through pink with a dot. I don't know if you can see the dots there. And this is, sorry, I don't know what kind. This is a cotton, but it's a very big weave cotton. So in both cases, I'm going to just cut myself a pretty good circle. I can't help myself. I still do like, as rough as I'm saying you can do it, I didn't like that little jag in there. Or that little point right there. Anyways, you do it as you like it. Okay. And let's do another one out of this one. And on the blue one, I had a piece of blue tulle that I also put in different layers, and that helped puff it up a bit. But in this particular, in the pink one, I don't think I need to do that because I have some pretty good laces that'll probably take care of that for me. Because you want it to have some dimension. All right, not a perfect circle, doesn't matter. Now, for example, on this lace, I'm going to still take a circle like that. So even different size circles work, because what I also did with the blue rose was I had two different smaller circles of a particular kind of lace, and then I put one on one side and one on the other. Okay, so I'm going to do that with this one too. Okay, and on like full lace, like a full piece of lace, I just not only could I use that as tulle, which I'm going to right now, but I also put the circle on one of the motifs and cut that out. This isn't as stiff as tulle is though, so it's not going to totally substitute for me. Move this out of the way. Now for things like this, I think I'm not sure if I'm going to use it, but I think if I do, I'll gather it the same, but closer to the top. And same as this tiny piece of lace trim, I would do the same thing, because I can't get a circle out of that, but I might still use it. We will see. This is all an experiment. So there's a motif, and I will can I show you? Oh, on the blue one, I had this shiny ribbon that I cut a circle out of, and I used it as the center behind this little crochet star that I made. I shared how I made these in my schoolhouse bits and bobs page. And if you were wondering if you saw those, you'll see this is what I'm going to use them for. Okay, so, but I don't have a shiny, I don't think I have a shiny pink ribbon. I went and go looking, and I found this thick velvet one instead. So I decided that on my pink one, I'm going to make myself a circle of velvet for that spot. Okay. Now, the only other one I probably could show you that isn't the same is I have this cotton lace too, crochet lace thicker. And again, the same motif thing. Where's my smaller circle? I will cut a couple of smaller circles out of this and use it on my thing as well. Now I'll finish cutting out a bunch of circles, and then I'll come back and I'll show you how I put it together and create the rose. Okay, I'm back. So now I've got different versions of, I love this little, it's not tulle, I'm not sure what it is, but I just love how it's like gridded like that. Okay, so We're gonna first layer up just as an approximate to see if you can get it looking like you want it to look before you start stitching anything. So do that, maybe like this, a little bit over here and a little bit over here. That's what I meant by you could have two smaller circles. Did you see that? I don't know if you saw that. I'll do it again. I did have to push it high. Okay, so there I put the fabric. I have two smaller circles, so I put one on one side and one on the other. And I do that a couple of different times. Let's see, the edge, like so, and like so. Then I'll put another piece of fabric. I might have too much here, actually. Let's see. Yeah. This happened when I did the blue one, too. I decided that I had put everything out too much so that you couldn't see that lace underneath, which is what I've done here again. That's not bad. I don't mind the composition as far as the layering, but I do know I want to pull everything in a little bit. Yeah. So it's just, the idea is to have little peaks of the different ones here and there. So you don't want anything necessarily covering up anything else. That just when you look around, you can see the different layers. I think that might do. I do think I should take out something, though. I think that's a little thick. Well, let's see if I put that on top. Yeah, let's take out these light pinks. Save that for the other one I want to do. And maybe this fabric. My intention is to make two pink ones, so, or I'm hoping to make two pink ones. Okay, so I think that'll, yeah, I think that would look good. All right, so I take it all off in order that it is, flip it over. I have a new thread with a knot on the bottom, and just so my knot isn't showing, I tuck it in where it was folded, and I come up in the middle at the front. Now, it really is loose tack stitching everything down through to the center of the back. You just take, I don't know, 3 or 4 stitches, just enough to, because everything else is still going to be stitched through it, so it's going to continue to be stitched. And you can take some tucks if you like so that it goes a little bit like that. That's also a way to stitch it in. Like here, I'll show you here. So I pulling it over too far. There, just to give it some dimension. And then I'll just stitch that fold. Just to keep it a fold. Oh, I went the wrong way. Did you see that? Oh, funny. Yes, I did just do that. All right. See, I didn't even need to try and find it from the back. I could have just gone here like so. There we go. That little pleat is making it stand up a little bit. Okay, now I'm going to the back again. And then I'm going to take my next layer, which are these these two. Let's see where I want to put them. But remember, I'm reminding myself I wanted to come in because I had gone out. You know what I'm going to do? I'm going to trade this one off for one of these pink ones instead. Yeah, like so. Now, just for ease, to make sure it stays where I want, I did find it helpful to put a pin in. Because what happens, and it even happened after I put pins in, you can see sometimes this had migrated over before I got it stitched down. It's part of the shabby. It actually looks quite cute, but yeah, just to avoid some of that. So again, just take a bunch of stitches around, just to tack these two in place. Okay. And then this is the next one I put. So I cut the circle out of that cotton one. But when I cut the circle, I put the circle on the edge where the edge is, not the gathered spot. So that's the part that I'm trying to make sure is sticking out and not towards the center. I've had this for, oh gosh, 20 some odd years. 30 years easily. I bought it thinking I was going to do something with it, and finally I am. There, like that. This is these would also look wonderful with the whites and cream laces. I think they would be lovely in any color, I suppose. But all the little tiny pieces of lace, scrap lace you might have around, this is a great little embellishment idea to use them for. You can put them on like on a lapel, as a pin. You can hang it on a front of a bag, or stitch it onto the front of a bag. As I said, I'm using it for my bits and bobs, not 100% sure where or how, but I just knew that Shabby Roses would be pretty. A pretty additions as a filler. Okay. There's no such thing as too much tacking, but you know, you don't have to do too much either, because like all the layers are stitching through. So next, because I did these here, I'm going to put these here, this way. Like that. But again, I have to remind myself, see that? I almost covered up the edge. There. This one's already thicker than this one, and I have more layers. Doesn't matter. It's allowed to have more layers if I want. Okay, I'm going to put these over there. And I think maybe for this one I will just choose one for the middle, like so. Yeah, I think so. Okay. Okay. And then this one right smack in the middle, but which way? Yes, I think that will do nicely. Now, because I'm not planning on putting anything else around here, I'm only going to do my stitching right in the middle. I'm going to make sure I stay closer to the center so it won't show for sure. And also when you do that, you allow the edges to come up a bit, which is part of the design. Many layers stitching through now. All right, and then before the button, for the final pieces, do I still like this? Yes, I still like that. Okay, I'm skipping this for now, but I maybe will use it for the next one. Okay. And again, just in this, that moved off a bit, as velvet is wont to do. Okay. Really close to the middle stitches where the button will be the only thing covering these up now. I thought originally there was going to be no such thing as too many layers, but I do think there is such a thing as too thick. This one, I'm not taking it apart, but the next one I don't think I'll put as many layers. With the blue, I didn't have as many options, so that's why it didn't end up any thicker than it was, as far as what I had for laces and things I wanted to use. Okay. I wouldn't want to go thicker than what this one is. That was yeah. But it is already sweet. I have no issue with it. Oh yes, I do. I'm gonna trim these off a smidge around here. a square. There. Okay. Now I'm gonna, the needle came unthreaded, but I am going to knot that off on the back, get another needle threaded, and then I'll come back and stitch the button on. Okay. Okay, I'm back. Now I decided out of my options that I liked this button the best. It's nice and dark and stands out, I think, really well. Kind of like that one did. Okay, so to stitch that through, I'm going to come up from behind again. Here's what the back looks like, in case you were wondering. I'm going to bury my knot, bring the needle up the middle as best I can. I didn't bury the knot very well, not that it really matters. What I also liked about this button is the little metal shank was fitting nicely in the center here, which will help me bury it inside the center of that little crochet star. It's not a working button, it just is here for decoration, so I 3 times through. I doubled my thread, I don't know if you noticed that. I like to do my buttons that way. It takes some of the, it saves you some extra time through. So 3 of those double threaded should be plenty to hold this button in place. There. Knot it off on the back. And then this Shabby Rose is finished. Oops, I just shook the camera, I think. Oh, and again, sorry about that. Okay. Lots of little noises today. Okay, there. What do you think? I like it. I like it a lot. Now, while I was off camera, I started to think that I really wanted to use this somehow, but it somehow didn't work for these kind of Shabby Roses. But I love that it had like this frayed edging. It just was nicely used, if you know what I mean. So if you remember this little crochet thing that I had, it had a white center. I put a piece of that base cloth at the back, but it had a white center, and I didn't love that white center, so I was picking buttons, and I thought, oh, this button will half cover up the white center. But then see what I did? I wrapped this shabby ribbon around like a scarf and then tucked the two ends in, and I think that's adorable too. A different kind of little shabby rose. So those are those for now, and I am going to next, I'll clear this off and show you what I think I might do with this. Okay, I'm back. I don't know if this is going to work. We are doing an experiment. So I'm going to keep the knot, and I'm going to roll it onto itself. Now, I should say there's an edge that has a seam and then an edge that doesn't have a seam. So I'm going to try and keep the edge with the seam to the bottom. And I'm going to roll this onto itself a few times. And then I'm going to take some stitches to try and keep it that way, where it is. I don't think there's bearing knots in this one. And I'll just catch the edge of each roll. Just hold it into place. Now I'm going to continue to roll it, and I don't mind if it goes up and down and not be just smooth, because I'm rolling myself a rose out of this, if you can imagine that. So you don't want it too smooth across or it won't have the effect. And I'm just going to keep stitching every few little bit so that it stays where I want it. Oh, it did it again. Yeah, I have a hard time when I use this particular thread of getting it to, it's wound on the spool differently than other threads, I think, and I never remember that. Okay. I'm just catching the edges of that bottom and just stitching it together. And I'm just going to keep doing that until it's about the size of a quarter. I don't think it would have the same illusion or the same visual if I made it way big. Then it would look like a little mini rug for a dollhouse. I guess that's what you could do with these too. Okay, now I'm on purpose going to come up the next time I go wrap it around, so that the edge, the outer part is higher than the time before. And I think the rest of the rolling I'll continue to do that just so that it has some depth. Just a little bit. Let's see what it's looking like. Oh, not bad. Actually, that might be just big enough to be a tiny little rose. I'll roll it a bit and see if I like it bigger, but I don't think so. Well, that's actually pretty good, too. Yes, I like that. Okay, so what I'm gonna do, I'm gonna pin it right there. Somehow lost what it was doing. Yeah, it keeps flattening out. Well, I'm going to unroll again and continue stitching, and maybe that'll help. Maybe it's because I re-rolled it in advance. If I stitch it at a different level all the way around, then it'll have less chance of flattening out. Okay, well, I'm going to try this off camera. I'll come back and show you what happened. Okay, I'm back. It turns out it actually looks better, I think, with the center poked higher than the outer edges. Turned out pretty cute. I think this is like a dime, and it's smaller than a nickel for sure. I tucked in the end, and then I took a few stitches. And that knot, starting with the knot, definitely helped. Yeah, I think that's cute. Though, I have to say, I did another experiment. I had a silky, or not silky, I don't know. This is from a nightgown. Was a string from a nightgown. Slippery anyways. And I tried a version with it, and I don't like this one as much. It's sort of too flat. Oh, though, now that I poke the... Oh, maybe. Okay. It works there too. It's poking the bottom up, the middle up. All right. There. A bunch of shabby little roses to use for embellishments. Repurposing some of the pieces in your stash. How fun. Thanks for watching.